Hey, hi. This is Vivian again with a little more theory. I guess we'll call this week's The Rest of the Scale story. Last time we talked about the first degree and the last degree. This week we're going to fill in the rest of it. To do that, we're going to have to start with a little talk about half steps and whole steps. We kind of started this with a question from last week, and that's one of the reasons this became the lesson this week. Half step. It's the smallest step that we have in our Western music, and it is either from a white note to a black note to a white note, and maybe this is the easiest, where it's a white note to a white note, and notice that only happens where there is no black note in between these two white notes. That's the half steps. The other part is the whole step that we need. Now the whole step, it's just like in math where you add a half and you get a whole. So if you were going to add the half step of black to white and then white to black, that would get you this whole step of two black notes, or the whole step of two white notes. Notice there's this black step, this black note in between. And now for the tricky one, where it goes white to black, skipping over a white note. This is always really hard for kids, so it might be a little bit tricky for adults too. And the reverse would also be true. It could be, and they didn't give you this one, so I'll do it. You could have a dot on the black note skipping over a white note to get a whole step also. So there really should be 4 steps. I love it when the books don't quite make it complete. All right, now if we put those together, this pattern of whole steps and half steps, we'll get the scale. Now we're going to go to the C major scale this week because C is the easiest scale. It is the only major scale that goes all white notes. It does not start on A at the beginning of the alphabet though. To go all white notes, it starts on C. And then I also want to point out that it's going to go alphabetical here, but the musical alphabet will stop after you've done the C, D, E, F, G, because there's only 7 letters in the musical alphabet. It'll start over again with A, B, and C. And there, here you can see where it shows the whole steps and the half steps. This is like the addition sign. So we have the other 4 steps, or the other 4 notes, and they follow the same pattern of whole, half. This is what it looks like on the paper, written out in the staff. I do want to also point out some other little things that might be super basic, but still, I'm just going to assume that I should say it. Line notes and space notes go up in this nice diagonal line, but that's how your alphabet will run then too. C is a line note, D is a space note, followed by the line E, followed by the space F, followed by the line G. Here's where the alphabet starts over with the space A, line B, space C. Now, for those of us who have to do it, oops, let me go one more. In bass clef, I want to treat them fairly here. C is a space note down here. This is bass C. Notice the letters are even written in. D is a line, E is a space, F is a line, G is a space, A is a line, B is a space, and C has the ledger line. In both instances, we had a line cutting through the C, middle C to be exact, and that's called a ledger line. Okay, the one I skipped basically is looking at the treble clef again with the letters already written in there. Now I'm going to go to the piano.
Here's the part 2, and we're going to the piano keyboard to work on that. In part 1, we talked about the 1st degree and the 8th degree of the scale, 8 notes apart. That's that octave. This time we're going to fill in between. We're going to start with, I'm using C this time. We're going to use the C scale. Find the C by using your 2 long, strong fingers of your right hand, and then the thumb will be automatically on a C. Long, strong on the group of 2 black notes, and then to the left is the C. C, D, E. We'll take a little time out here to explain. If you're also getting a little bit of piano skills in on you, you have to go under here. There's 8 degrees of the scale, and we do not have 8 fingers. So we're going to play 3, then we're going to come under and play 5. F, G, A, B, C, C, B, A, G, F, E, D, C. Or you could sing the numbers, and since that's what we usually do in Sweet Adeline's, if you're learning a little bit of piano along with this, sing the numbers along with. And I'm talking about the numbers as in the degrees of the scale. I am not talking about my finger numbers right now, even though the first 3 are actually going to match. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 8, 7, 6, 5, 4, 3, 2, 1. And if you have a smartphone, you can download a piano keyboard, and even though it's small, you can still work on the proper skills for playing a scale with the 1, 2, 3, thumb under, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 while you're doing this. Okay, we are going, one of the reasons I'm starting at the keyboard is because we're going to talk about whole and half steps. And I think the keyboard is the easiest place to see whole and half steps. This is where the black keys come into play. Remember I said I chose C because the formula for a major scale is all white notes in C. Those black notes will show us how the whole and half steps work. Like from C to D, or from the 1st degree of the scale to the 2nd degree of the scale, is a whole step. It's a whole step because there is a black note in between. If we played all of those, that would be half steps. But we need a whole step to make the scale. 1, 2, we need another whole step. 2, 3. Now when we're going from 3 to 4, not only is it the place where you cross under, but notice there's no black note between these. This is where the half step comes in. 3, 4. Now, we're going to have a whole step to get to the 5th degree, but this is kind of like the addition sign. We're halfway through the scale, we're just going to add them together to another half scale, and you do that with a whole step. See, there's that black note, so 4 to 5 is a whole step. Now we're going to start the formula all over again. 5 to 6 is a whole step because there's a black note in between. 6 to 7, another whole step. There's that black note in between. And finally, we're going to finish with 7 to 8, and notice there's no black note, so there's our other half step. 7, 8. And that's how it looks on the piano. Here's the
Okay, just to recap all that, and hopefully not having you feel like I'm beating a dead horse. Here's the C major scale. It's the all white note major scale. 8 steps in a row. That's the degrees of the scale. First, second, third, fourth, fifth, sixth, seventh, eighth degree. Last time we talked about the octave. That's the first and the eighth degrees. I did want to point out, diatonic might be another new word maybe. That just means it's going to go in order. And it follows the alphabet. C, D, E, F, G, A, B, C. And it has a formula. The whole step, half step, added together with a whole step, then it's whole, half. One more way of looking at it, and maybe one more term for those of you who want to have a little extra. When the 4 notes together in that pattern, that whole, half pattern, is called a tetrachord. The scale is actually made of 2 tetrachords with the same formula added together with the whole step. And next time maybe I'll fill in with more talk on just the do, re, mi here. I feel like I need to add this one little discussion yet here on sharp and flat signs, if you're not familiar with them already. The sharp sign has been usurped anymore with the hashtag, but it was originally a sharp sign. The flat sign looks like a little B, and the natural sign a little trickier. If you were drawing it, you come down and over, and then to finish it off, you go over and down. Now, the reason I put it in parentheses is because sometimes in music, they remind us that it's supposed to be a sharp or a flat or a natural, trying to keep us from making the mistake. And one last thing to look at, the song Almost There is the only one we have in our current running portfolio that's in the key of C. Yeah, the C that you might remember from Vicky's lesson, this C does not stand for the key of C here. That stands for common time. The fact that it is the key of C is that there are no sharps and flats listed here at the beginning. That's what one of the clues that it's going to be in the scale of C major. And then you can see some accidentals written in here already in the bass clef. The berries and the basses are going to play a flatted note, so they're going to go down the half step. Now that only lasts as long as the bar line, and maybe we'll have a bigger discussion on that sometime. So when I noticed that, I wrote in my own courtesy natural to remind me that I'm going back to the E natural. So when you're singing this, you're going to actually be going, don't have time for dancing. In other words, we went down to that flat, but then we had to come back up to the natural. Don't have time for dancing. And then the treble clef people get to have it. And tenors, you're going to go crazy. You're going to, oh, tenors. I didn't notice that this is going to be complicated. You get G flat followed by the F sharp. And you know what? It's the same note. I think we'll save more discussion on that for another time unless you want me to go on. And now I think we're going to sing this Almost There. And even though you have it memorized, I think maybe it would be a good idea to go ahead and follow through with the music, follow along with, so you can kind of notice all of the natural signs and flat signs and sharp signs, because all of those things mean that we're doing something different, not in the C scale. Thanks for listening. Till later.